Hello YouTube! Today I'm going to be reviewing and grading some of the most famous fitness channels on YouTube. I often get asked what I think about this guy or that guy, and I rarely take the time to answer because it usually is just going to be me giving my opinion to one person and it's a waste of time. Plus, it tends to just be drama based most of the time. People ask because they want to see if you have beef with a person. I'm not super interested in that for the vast majority of the population because I have my targets, and for the rest, if I don't attack someone outright, it's because either I don't care about them or I don't think they're that dangerous or funny to make fun of. But I also see the value in giving you guys my opinion on certain pages because I know that some of you ask because you want to know if the page is good to follow and you trust my judgment. And this is why I established a ranking system that is going to allow me to grade people, because if we're going to do this, we're going to do it properly. I used to be a teacher, I still teach, and when you grade your students, you give them a paper or a test, there is what we call un barreau. They know exactly what the points are, and that makes it fair. So this is what I actually devised for today. I made a simple list of qualities that every single channel is going to be graded on that you can follow as well, so as to make this as objective as possible. Because again, if I were to just give my opinion, it's fairly worthless and it's going to quickly devolve. This, of course, is not going to be something that is going to be purely objective, because that's impossible. Some of the criteria are still going to be subjective, and at the end of the day, this is still just my opinion. But I'm trying to make it as fair as possible, which also means that my personal feelings towards these people is going to be pushed to the side as much as possible. If there are friends in the list, if there are people who I have an actual relationship with, it's not going to influence my judgment. I'm going to be as cold as possible, as much of a machine as possible, so as to give you again something fair for the people being judged and for the people who are going to take their time to watch this video. If you want to jump directly to the person that you're interested in, you can check the timestamps. And without further ado, we are going to get started right away with the grading system that I'm going to quickly introduce to you guys. Now, this is going to be ranked and graded out of 200 points. So the maximum amount of points a channel can score is 200. The minimum is, of course, 0. Every single criteria is going to be graded from 0 to 10. They are programming, so it's the ability to explain to people how to train and the parameters. Experience, which is not physique, okay? Experience is how long they've been lifting and what they've done during that time, if it's worth anything to share. Integrity, which goes without really explaining. Do they lie? Do they try to scam people? Do they damage control often? Usefulness, so how useful is the channel to people, and that's divided between noobs, intermediates, advanced, etc. Character, who they are as a person, which is almost as important as the content they make, because the content that we make as fitness YouTubers is directly linked with who we are as people. So if someone is a bad person, most likely they're going to make bad content. Dogmatism, are they willing to actually look at their own mistakes? Do they admit their fault? Do they think that they know everything? Originality, so the amount of art and creativity in their channel, their thumbnails, are their thumbnails creative? Do they look different? Are the titles interesting? Are the topics and the themes of the video interesting? What is the channel about? Is it something new? That's what I'm going to be grading this particular criteria on. Black pill, so do they tell people that nothing is possible in life? Do they project their own despair and depression on people, which is something you see often, which here is going to be, of course, a negative thing. Understand that I give from 0 to 10, so on something like programming, if you get 10, it means that you are really good at it, and if you get 10 at black pill, it doesn't mean that you are really good at black pilling people, it means that you don't do it. So black pill, someone who black pills people would get a 0, of course. The closer you are to 0, the less points you get, so the worse your grade is, that is the point. Humor, are they funny? Parasocial, do they feed the parasocial? Do they try to manipulate their subscribers to become fanboys to make them more docile? Empathy, how do they connect with their audience? Is the connection real? Is it actually something heartfelt or is it fake? How do they relate? Because relating to people is important. How vulnerable do they make themselves to be able to actually connect with people, etc. And also how engaged they are with their community. God complex, how far deep down the rabbit hole of YouTube salary are these people? Do they think that they're all that and that their shit don't stink? Do they think that because they have people watching them suddenly that they're so important and intelligent, which is something that happens all the time? Which also includes understanding subjectivity, which many people are incapable of, meaning that they think that their subjectivity is an objectivity of sorts, which is impossible. Do they accept fault, take blame? How do they react to criticism, etc., etc.? Production quality, image, sound, and editing. Science, how do they use science? Are they using science for the proper benefits of their audience? Do they use science to actually underline certain training principles or to prove their points? Or do they use science to bully others? Do they manipulate science and use scientism, again, to sell products, etc.? How much they rely on anecdotal evidence, which is important, and how much they rely on empirical studies. All of that is going to be taken into account. Clickbait, do they clickbait people with their titles, with their thumbnails? Do they do a ton of drama, which I consider clickbait? Is there a hype chase? Do they constantly try to make topics that are relevant to the hype, which tend to make for garbage content? And how much of that garbage content they recycle, which I call content recycling. How often do they make the same video? How often do you see the same exact theme 6 months afterwards with a different thumbnail and titles, which is very common on YouTube Fitness? How concise are they? Are the videos short enough? Is it to the point? Do they ramble? Do they waste your time? Because keep in mind that when people click on videos, like you right now, you expect to be given something. So if the YouTuber wastes your time for no actual payback, it's an insult and they get a poor grade if they actually do that. It's funny that I myself would speak about conciseness and grade people on it, right? Understand also that these are all ranked from more important to least important in my opinion, but they all yield the same value, which is 10 points. After that, you have the 3 bonuses, which is bonus for seniority, how long have they been on the platform, 2 a minus for selling supplements. If they sell supplements, they will get a 0, and if they don't, they'll get a 10, so it's 0 to 10 also. And physique, the last one is I'm going to judge them on their physique, which is again purely subjective, but I think I have a pretty good eye for physiques, in particular on this platform. So let me start taking myself more seriously. I am going to endosser le rôle de professeur. I'm back into my teacher role, and we're going to start right away with AlphaDestiny. Programming 8.5. AlphaDestiny has a good understanding of programming. You can see on his channel that his understanding of it and his ability to program for himself and people has gotten much better. His understanding also of strength, parameters, and principles has gotten sharp. He learns from the best. He doesn't mind also giving people credit when he has learned from West Side, for example. So he is a good source of information if you're the type of person who wants information about programming for your training. The reason why he doesn't have all of the points is because some of his programming ideas on bodybuilding are not the most developed. Experience 7.5. Alex is still young. He is young just like I am. Therefore, he doesn't have as much experience as one could hope. And some of his experience is more related to calisthenics. That being said, he's been in the game for a long time and he has been through several phases during his training journey. So he can help people through these phases as well. That is experience that is valuable. Integrity, 9. AlphaDestiny is someone with a lot of integrity. It's something that he's proven throughout the years. He is always willing to take fault. He's always willing to recognize when he fucked up. He has apologized many times for things he has done, even sometimes when he didn't really have to apologize at all. So that deserves a very high grade because the more you stay on the platform, the more skeletons you have in your closet, and Alex has almost no skeletons. Usefulness, 9. If you're a novice, you're going to learn from his channel. If you're an intermediate, you're going to learn from his channel. If you're advanced, most likely he can still teach you things, which is incredibly rare, valuable, and therefore deserves a 9. This is a very high grade, but it's well deserved. The only people that won't be able to actually learn that much from him are going to be people who are going to be very advanced in bodybuilding already. Character, 8. Alex has a good character, solid character. I docked some points because as he evolved with his channel, there are certain phases or periods during his lifting career where his character was not the cleanest or the most welcoming, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but since the evolution has proven that he has now the ability to be more of, again, a welcoming, I don't even like that word that much, but a good role model per se, he can't get a 10. But evolution of character is important, so that's an 8. Dogmatism, 5. Alex is fairly dogmatic on certain points, on certain aspects where he has certain views that are not very flexible at all, and on others where he is open. Again, I'm seeing an evolution here, so it's a 5 because I know that in a year it's going to be a 6, then a 7, etc. But you will see that when it comes to dogmatism, many fitness YouTubers are going to score low because it takes some level of dogmatism to be able to go far, because people don't like to hear someone who constantly changes their mind or switches their mind. Even though it can be said with Alex that he has changed his mind on a lot of stances, but it took him a long time, so that's why he gets a bad grade for that. Originality, 6.5. It sounds low, but you will see that most of them are going to get low graded on this particular criteria because it's fitness, it's tough to be original on this platform. So 6.5 because at the end of the day, you click on this channel, it's very interesting stuff and it's high value, but it's nothing that is going to make you think, okay, this is revolutionary. I must say that there used to be a time where it felt like AlphaDestiny was doing something new, and paradoxically, it was also the period of time where he gave the worst advice. So make with that what you will. At the end of the day, good fitness advice tends to be fairly boring and bland because what works, works. Black pill, 10. Alex doesn't black pill people. He does a good job at making people believe in their potential. He inspires people. He gives hope to people. I don't remember him saying one time that, oh, you will never achieve this or that. He also is realistic, which is important, right? I don't want people who just say, oh, you can do whatever and buy my supplement. No, that would still give you a bad grade for the black pill. He has the perfect mix, again, of hope and realism. Humor, 2. I personally don't find Alex very funny at all. I think it's also because he doesn't try to be funny. It's important for that grade because if you don't crack jokes or if you don't make efforts to be comedic, you will get a bad grade. I mean, it's unavoidable. It's a choice to make. Do you want your fitness channel to be purely information-based or do you want to be funny? I think that the only time where Alex was sort of leaning into that role was when he had his entire Italian phase, which was, granted, very entertaining, but also the period of time where he gave the worst advice. So that's a 2, but it's a 2 that actually is a good thing because you will see later that other people get very high grades there, and it speaks very poorly to their character. Parasocial, 8. Almost no parasocial on the channel. I mean, 8 is a very high grade for that. It's inevitable for big pages to be a tiny bit parasocial. So for example, something I can state for Alex is that he uses his own body and face on his thumbnails a lot, which I understand it's YouTube fitness, but fits the parasocial, so he cannot have the highest grade. Empathy, 9. Alex is someone who connects with people. He is vulnerable when he needs to be vulnerable. He has admitted fault, and he has connected a very strong connection and link to his audience, which also is the reason why he had an 8 for the parasocial, but that allows him to, again, be more truthful and really touch people. When he speaks, people are going to listen because they trust him. He has established a bond, and that bond is very important. God complex, 9. Alex is down to earth. I've never seen the guy have an ego trip or say, oh, I'm so much better than you guys. It's a quality of his because it makes him very relatable. So that's a very high grade as well. Production quality, 6. He has good cameras, he has a good microphone, but there's no fancy editing, there's no crazy Hollywood scenery, which some people like and that contribute to the production value of the entire thing. So that is a 6. Science, 6. The reason why I gave a 6 on science is because when you make use of science, you cannot pick and choose only the things that you like. Everyone does it because it's the best way to actually utilize science on YouTube fitness if it corroborates what you already think. The problem is that this is dogmatism. And it's something that I'm seeing in AlphaDestiny, so he gets a 6. But on the flip side, he does utilize science properly for training and to apply proper methods on certain lifts, on certain strategies. So the grade cannot be lower than that. Clickbait, 9. AlphaDestiny does not clickbait. I don't think he knows what it is. Even most of his titles are straight up informative. The thumbnails are never super shiny or with like a big red circle saying, oh, click the video. So that's a very high grade. It's the sign of someone who knows that their content doesn't need to be pimped to be able to be palatable. Content recycling, 3. He has a channel that is quite old now, so it's to be expected that videos are going to cycle back. That being said, it is true that there is a high amount of video tabs that tend to repeat themselves. For to the benefit of AlphaDestiny, I must say that usually what happens is he'll make 7 videos on the overhead press that all look the same, but if you listen to him, there's something that changes every single time, and that something is evolution. So the concept evolves, but it's also still something that you are going to click on and rehear 80% of something that you've already heard. Again, it's unavoidable. Fitness is finite unless you want to branch out of fitness, which I did. You're going to have to recycle content. So that's a 3 here. Conciseness, 6. He is straight to the point for the most part. There has been a period of time where he tended to repeat himself, and that was a few years back, but it still makes up for a lot of his content. Nowadays, he's much better at that. The videos are more structured. But there used to be a time where Alex would ramble. Now, I must admit that I enjoyed his rambling because they were actually entertaining. But objectively, it's still something that needs to be graded down. Seniority, 7. Again, old channel. He's been doing his job. He has built upon his previous mistakes and he has improved his knowledge. So a 7 here is in the cards for him. Supplements, 10. Alex has never pushed supplements. He doesn't sell supplements. So that's a perfect grade. Physique, 7.5. That is my opinion. I think that this is a good grade for his physique. Total grade for AlphaDestiny, 146 points out of 200. Next up, Greg Doucette. Programming, 5.5. Greg knows about programming, unlike what you might think. It's just that he dumbs it down a lot for the novices and noobs on his channel, which is 99% of them, because he's a massive page that attracts a lot of new subscribers. So by default, it also means that it's not going to be super advanced, and a lot of that is going to be very confusing. We've seen that with Greg. He has a tendency to dumb things down, and then he dumps them down so much that they stop having any meaning, and he himself gets lost. That is the problem, again, when you don't use clear terms. So 5.5. Experience, 7. Hate him, love him. The guy has experience in bodybuilding, he has experience in powerlifting, he has experience with diet and with athletics to a certain degree. So that's a high grade. I cannot give him less than that. The reason why I docked points is because he is now a natural, which means that he spent a lot of years on drugs, which tends to lead people to give bad advice. You will have noticed that I do not grade people down for taking drugs, but it can sometimes dock them points in the review for the criteria if it has an influence. Integrity, 0. I think that this is fairly honest of a grade for someone like Greg. He himself agrees that he has no integrity and that he's a sellout. So if you want to be ironical about getting money and not caring about the repercussions, you have to deal with the consequences. This means that he's someone who lies a lot, who doesn't mind scamming people, who does damage control whenever he's caught with his hand in the cookie jar. So he is someone that, for the most part, cannot be trusted. Usefulness, 8. For novices, it's a good channel because they're going to get a ton of information they wouldn't get from a similar page at the same size. For intermediates, you can still learn things from Greg, and for advanced lifters as well. That being said, there are going to be also people who are not going to get anything from his knowledge because they outgrew it. But since most people on YouTube Fitness are novices, an 8 is fair here. Now understand that this is based off of his informative videos. As you will have noticed, The only channels that I'm actually reviewing and grading today are muscle building channels, so no strength channels, so no strength only channels rather, and the ones that make informative videos. Greg does make informative videos when he's not busy making 50 videos about drama and whatever is happening in Hollywood. And these videos tend to be useful, so 8. Character 4. I personally don't dislike Greg on a personal level. I dislike what he became. So the gimmick is really annoying. But it cannot deserve a 0. He is not that bad. There are much worse people on the platform. It's just that he's the one that screams the loudest and has the highest pitched voice, so he's the one that you hear. Dogmatism 6.5. He is not very dogmatic at all. It is true that he will defend tooth and nail certain principles or practices that are not defendable, so that in a sense plays towards the dogmatism, which docks him a lot of points, but he's not as dogmatic as some people would actually believe that he is. It's just that he has so many bones to pick and he has so many things that he hyper focuses on that I cannot grade him lower than that. Originality 6. He does drama content, he does pretty standard fitness stuff. It's a 6. It's nothing crazy, but it's not bad either. Black Pill 1. Greg is really bad with that. He just destroys people's hope. He destroys people's standards. His ideas of what a natural can accomplish is fucking abysmal. So this is a terrible grade for a reason. Is because it's something that makes him a terrible influence on young people because it kills their drives, it kills their dreams. Humor 8. I know some of you are going to tell me 8, what the fuck, he sounds like a parrot. I understand. But he makes an attempt at being funny and sometimes he lands. And when someone lands, you give them points. So 8. Parasocial 2. Greg has an army of fanboys and he has an army of fanboys because he built it. I remember his channel back in the days when it was small. The comment section was normal. Nowadays it's insane to the point that some of my old guilty pleasures back in the days was going into his comments, posting the most like outrageous statements about Greg and seeing if people were going to like it, and they did 10 times out of 10 because he has an actual cult following that he reinforces by his behavior. So that's a 2. Empathy 7. Now, it's strange that someone who scams people would have empathy, but actually it's required. If you want to be able to get into people's wallets, you have to get into people's hearts. So it's something that he has, it's a quality that he has. And you see that when he reaches out to people who are obese. He tends to have an ability to actually tap into them. And yes, granted, he insults them, but I'm personally not opposed to that practice if it yields results. God Complex 8. There is Greg, and then there is the rest of humanity, which is mosquitoes. We are all mosquitoes to Greg, and we can all be very grateful and count ourselves lucky that he's 5'6", because if he weren't, we would all be swatted down like the flies that we are now. This here is something that you see with a lot of YouTubers, as I said, because your head just inflates the more you gain subscribers. So I'm not surprised. But Greg is particularly bad with this. You see that with the way he takes criticism. He just loses his shit, and you can actually witness that in his comment section, where he just goes mayhem on people the second they disagree with him. That's just not proper. I mean, take a fucking chill pill. Production quality, 9.5. He has a good camera, good mic, he has an editor, so high quality. Science, 7. 7 because he doesn't speak about science much, meaning that when he makes a statement, he just backs it off with anecdotal evidence, and he doesn't try to pretend that it's like revealed by a team of scientists that live somewhere down the South Pole, which I find refreshing because it's getting rarer and rarer. So 7, plus he has a good understanding of certain things related to diet that actually are accurate. Clickbait, 0. Of course, I mean, you look at his titles, at his thumbnails, his entire channel is clickbait. He knows that it's his big game plan. The issue is that the vast majority of his content is just garbage because you're clicking on something that's essentially a tabloid. It's like the Sun magazine. It's something that's just gossip that has no actual meaning or value. Content recycling 8, because of course when you make videos about something that is hype or the news or whatever the fuck that singer has eaten and she eats donuts and she's a fat fuck, blah, blah, blah. Well, you have constant content, right? The stream of stuff that you can talk about is endless, which is the reason why also drama channels do so well, is because it's very easy to make new paintings if the things that you base your paintings on is the content of the sewer. Conciseness 6.5, nothing much to say here. The videos are relatively short. When they are long, they tend to be engaging. You don't actually pay attention to anything else because you are transfixed by this person who screams at you for 25 minutes and somehow still has a functional throat. Seniority 3, because even though Greg has been on the platform for a while, what he has done with his seniority and years is fairly deplorable, so I cannot give him more points than that. Supplements 0, he has a literal pyramid of supplements behind him as he records. There's nothing else I have to say. Physique 9.5, even though you might dislike it, even though it's not my fav, it's hypocritical to say that Greg doesn't have a great physique. He is big, he is jacked. Thank God he's taking drugs that are going to kill him, so might as well be actually bulked up and swole out of it. Greg Doucette, total score 106.5. Buff dudes. Programming 3. I don't hear much programming coming out of the mouth of these two individuals. I know that they know what it is, but they're not really interested in sharing it with people. So even when they train or even when they present a program, they barely talk about volume, intensity, and frequency. Experience 10. The two combined is, I think, 20, 25, 30 years of lifting combined that they have, the two brothers. That's invaluable. Plus, they've been through all of the stages. They bulked, they got injured, they got kids. All stages of life. That means that they have a lot of experience that they can share with people because every single person is going to be able to relate. So that's a perfect score. Integrity 8. Even though they're a massive page and they got millions upon millions of views, they never really sold out, they never really became detestable. Yes, they have sponsorships, yes, they sell products, but they strike me as the type of people that manage to actually achieve a balance between getting your bag and not being a complete piece of shit about it. Usefulness 7. Now, for the buff dudes, it's a really good channel for novices, then it's slightly worse for intermediates, and then it's fairly useless for advanced lifters, which is what the vast majority of fitness channels are like, because they target novices. Character 9. I do believe that these are two people who have solid values, and who, even if they might be playing a role, we don't know, still shine through the screen when you watch them. So that's a very high score. When you look at YouTube Fitness, it is rare to find people again that are not going to have any drama. And these two are drama-free. They had an actual drama-free run, unlike other people. And that's something that to be noticed. They also don't really engage with anything that is going to put them into hot waters. So that's a great strategy and it pays off. Dogmatism 10. I've never heard them bicker about, oh, this is the best method and this is the worst method and I am right. I don't think they give a fuck. They just do their thing, and if their audience wants to think that it's wrong, it's wrong. They're not going to try and pick a bone about it. They don't want to fight about it. They just say what they think works, and that is, to me, the best way to approach this YouTube fitness shit. Originality 6. It's a run-of-the-mill fitness channel with full workout vlogs, eating vlogs. The one thing that is very original is the skits, but even that was sort of stolen from Dom Mazzetti. It's not their own invention, so I cannot give them more than a 6. Plus their titles and everything in thumbnails are very generic. Black Pill 9. One of the two brothers actually has a very, very good physique, so much so that many people think he's on drugs. Now, I don't think that's true at all, but the good thing about the two is that they never push limits on people. They never try to establish a standard. They just tell people to be the best that they can, and the two actually have accomplished a lot in terms of bodybuilding, so that's a grade of 9. Humor 10. I think the two are quite funny, and the reason why I give them a 10 is because they make skits that are actually comedic and interesting, and you don't cringe through them. You actually have a good time, so that's a perfect 10. Parasocial 3. It's a massive page, so they're going to have a ton of parasocial going on. The reason why I give them a 3 is because even though I recognize their characters as outstanding, it does feel a tiny bit fake, and it does look like I'm watching actors sometimes. So it's something that is going to create a relationship with the audience, but if it's based on falsehood, it is no bueno. So I have to give them a 3. For their credit and to their credit, they don't try to abuse or leverage their pastoral relationships. So that's something to add to the list of things that make them good characters. Empathy 4. Again, I'm repeating myself, but sometimes I watch them and I'm thinking, am I watching like wax statues? Because you show me your life and you tell me things, and I'm getting the gist that you're trying to connect with me, but it doesn't work. It's like Patrick Bateman. Although you can grab my hand and for flesh, I am simply not there. It's sort of the feel that I get from these two, where it's too Hollywood for me, where it is not, I don't feel connected, right? So I don't know how you guys feel about that, but to me, it's a problem because it looks like I'm watching TV. So I cannot trust these people. I cannot believe what they say 100%. God complex 8, because they play a role. That's also the thing too, is when you play a role, you have to have a role that is going to be shiny in the eyes of people. Look at Arnold, look at movie stars. They can't be miserable, they can't be depressed, they have to be grandiose. So it also plays into the aspect of the God complex that isn't so bad in their cases, but it's just aligned with their gimmick and the entire buff dude identity. Production quality, 10. Keep in mind also that I say all of that, but 8 is a great score for God complex. I don't know why I just went into a tirade to defend them. God complex 8 is still great. Production quality 10. It feels like you're watching a Hollywood movie. It's amazing, so it deserves a 10. Science 5. So for the buff dudes, it's a little bit strange because on one hand they don't abuse science, but on the other hand they don't talk about it at all. So I cannot give them more than 5. They get half the points. Clickbait 2. It's gotten worse and worse, and nowadays it's really bad with the I trained like Batman for 5 days and blah blah blah. All of that stuff is of course very palatable and works very well with the algorithm, but it's also very clickbaity. I also must point out the fact that there used to be a time where they would use and abuse the female image to get clicks, or they would put a pair of ass or like a pair of boobs in their thumbnails to get clicks. That works because there's a ton of only teenagers on the platform, but in my opinion that is deplorable and it dogs them a ton of points. Content recycling 4, they've both run out of ideas and they haven't. Sometimes they make videos they've already made just with a different title, and sometimes they make a great new content that is actually quite new and refreshing on their platform. So not too bad. It's because they're old and it's the reason why they cannot score higher than 4. Conciseness 8. The videos never waste your time, it goes straight to the point, the editing is there to make sure of that. Seniority 6. I'm seeing a devolution of the buff dudes where they have went through a rough patch the last year where they were struggling to get views, and so they went right back to clickbait. It's sad, but I understand you don't want to see your channel die, so you're going to do what it takes. Supplements 6, they do sell supplements, they have had supplements on their channel, but they don't push it like madmen, so I'm not going to be too mean. 6. And physique 9. I think that the two brothers have amazing physiques that are quite inspiring, so it deserves a high grade. Now, let us take a break from the grading and look at the time. Excellent, I am actually quite efficient, like a proper teacher should be. Next up is Nalewanyj, which is a name I just massacred. Programming 8. Sean talks about programming on his platform. He insists on it because he understands that that's the way to go for natural lifters. He doesn't get a higher score because he doesn't go super deep in the technicalities, because again, he tries to appeal to novices. Experience 9. He's been lifting for a very long time. He's been through all of the phases, the books and the cuts. He has a ton of experience to share with people. None of that was actually tainted by PEDUs, so he almost gets a perfect score. Integrity 9. Just like with the buff dudes, Sean is one of these guys that even if you tried to dig for a scandal, you would come up empty-handed because he's squeaky clean. And that's rare, and that's very, very valuable. So gets a top score for integrity, doesn't try to sell bullshit to people, doesn't try to sell them garbage programs. I think he has free programs. He has things that you can access for free on his website. That's good. Usefulness, also 9, very high scores. Why? Because if you're a novice, you'll get good info. If you're an intermediate, you'll get good info. And if you're advanced, you'll get good info. If you want to learn about diet, you'll learn stuff about supplements, about proper lifts, things that don't work, things that do work. If you're the type of person who grew up on Instagram and who think that doing fucking presses with a plate is going to get you a big chest, Sean is there to tell you that it's bullshit and to be better. Character 7. The reason why I give him a 7 is because even though I do think that he has a good character, he's also quite bland. It's sort of the same with AlphaDestiny, where it's sort of the curse of the ordinary, meaning that if you want to relate to the everyday person, if you don't want to be a clown with a red nose that just screams at the screen, you're going to miss out on some of the entertainment possible, so your character cannot be graded that high. Dogmatism 8. He has, of course, certain things that he points out as incorrect, as we all do. He believes that certain things simply don't work, and for the most part, he is right on it, but that still constitutes dogmatism. Again, dogmatism is not necessarily a bad thing. He still gets an 8. Originality 5. Again, fitness channel. He's never really done anything special out of the box. Sean is that guy that is going to make like cherry pie, but he makes the best cherry pie. Like, he's going to make a recipe that's fucking basic, but it's so good that you're going to eat it every single day of the week. So he gets 5 points for actual execution, and he loses 5 points because he doesn't really make anything new. He just took out an old recipe and he perfected it. But if something works, why would you change, right? Black Pill 8.5. He doesn't push stupid low standards on people. He has a great physique and he tells people they can achieve it as well. He is open about his mistakes. He's open about the things he did wrong. He tries to help people in the right direction. He could have been someone who would have established himself as like the god of bodybuilding and tell people, hey, I have pristine genetics and you don't, so you suck and just listen to me and be mediocre. He does nothing of the sort, so he gets a high grade. Humor 3. Again, very bland channel. It's the equivalent of eating just tilapia. Tilapia is good if it's high quality tilapia, but it's fucking boring. It's just missionary, vanilla type of content that is simply not funny. You don't laugh when you watch his stuff, so that's a 3. Parasocial 7. Big channel, he has nut huggers, he has fanboys, doesn't really do anything to combat it. I understand why, it's part of the business. 7 is a fair grade. Empathy 8. Even though Sean is someone with a big channel and he could just let that get to his head and be completely disconnected from people, he still relates. And unlike the buff dudes, when you watch Sean, it feels like you're just watching a guy that you actually know. You know, you're spending the afternoon with your buddy and he's trying to teach you about life and lifting. That's good. That's great. You don't feel like the person is condescending towards you. You don't think like they're superior to you. It's always something that is going to get you to come back. Production quality 9.5. Very high quality stuff. The editing is on point. The reason why he doesn't get a 10 is because he doesn't take it to the next level of fucking the Dark Knight movie production, but some would say that it's actually a good thing. Science 8. Sean does make use of science, but he doesn't use science to push his own agenda. He doesn't use science to back off his own biases, and that is the way, again, science should be used. He has an history of doing that, meaning that some other people lost points because they used to use science and utilize science as a weapon. He never did that from what I know, so high grade. Clickbait 3, huge bodybuilding channel, has to compete with the other big dogs that would sell their mothers for clicks, so he clickbaits. To his benefit, again, and to his credit, the thumbnails are not too clickbaity, however the titles are horrendous, with the do this in parentheses, or don't do that, or work this, or big mistake, all of that stuff reeks of Affinex, so I have to dock points. Content recycling 6. Not too bad for someone whose page is that old. He still manages to make new content. He just has a tendency to make very general type videos about like the 5 biggest mistakes and the best thing for muscle growth, and this is why this supplement is bad. This is something we've seen times and times again. It is a form of recycling, it's already been said. He does that too with Instagram, where he's going to point out at someone and say this is wrong. I understand why he does it, but it's still recycling. Conciseness 7, you watch Sean, he's not going to bullshit his way or beat his way around the bush. I took points out because, again, he tends to make checklist videos where he just repeats stuff he already said in the past. Seniority 8, the highest grade for seniority so far, because even though he doesn't have the longest run, he has the highest sustained quality of all of the people I reviewed so far. Supplements 7.5, he calls out supplements companies on one hand, so that's good points for him, but there's too much of a focus on supplements, and at the end of the day, he still also recommends certain supplements, which is not a bad thing. All supplements are not bad, but it docks him points here. He has almost an 8. Physique 9, Sean has a very advanced physique, a very nice physique, it deserves a high grade. Sean Nalewanyj, total grade 148.5. Next up, Omar Isuf. Programming 8. Omar is one of the pioneers of programming on this platform. He's the first one to push programming. He learned from the best, which is powerlifting and the powerlifters on this platform that brought the light. He understands it at a very high level. He has made videos that served as cornerstone for a lot of you guys to actually discover what programming was in the first place. The reason why he gets an 8 is because he sort of stalled at some point and he met a glass ceiling, not because he's too dumb to break it, but because I don't think he's interested in going further, and because he hasn't really made any programming content for the past 2-3 years, I cannot give him more than 8. Experience 7. Sort of the same logic. Omar has a shit ton of experience. He's been obese, he's cut, he's been shredded, he's been focusing on strength, he's done strongman, all of that jazz, that's really good. But he also has a tendency to not push things to the extreme, and so he never gets really, really good or really, really advanced on certain aspects, and therefore his experience is always just there. It never really goes and breaks through, and that's why he cannot get a perfect score. Integrity 8.5. Omar is someone that will never sell you bullshit. He's someone that you can trust. He's not going to lie to you for ego's sake. He has no interest in that, or at least I believe, because he is the person that I've been watching the longest out of the list, and he's never disappointed me. Usefulness 9. The channel is very useful, and the good thing about Omar's channel is that if you go back, you can go on his channel and click all those videos and just go from there, because his knowledge grows with the videos. So as you grow yourself, you're going to go from video to video, year by year, and you're going to learn more and more, and it's going to always be aligned with what you need to know. Character 10. He's like a big brother. Out of the list, he's the guy that, on a personal level, I like the most, meaning that he's chill, he's the type that you want to hang out with. He is also someone who's always been steady, meaning that he never had evolution. And that's sort of strange to say, because for a lot of people, they would tell you that character evolution is very important. But if your character is great to start with, you don't need to evolve. So, since he's always been that chill, cool, relatable guy, he gets a perfect score. Dogmatism 7, he gets a 7 because we have a comic books in reality called Astérix et Obélix Mission whatever the fuck in reality, it's just Astérix et Obélix in France, where a character falls into like a vat of serum and potion, and the potion makes him super strong, and so he's strong for the rest of his life. Omar fell into the vat and into the cauldron, but what was in the cauldron was pure powerlifting. You know, it's the meme with Winnie the Pooh that drinks something, and then there's the character that says, "Oh, Winnie, you just drank X." I'm seeing that with Omar Isuf, and it's, "Oh, Omar, you just drank powerlifting Kool-Aid." He has a tendency to be very dogmatic, and he skews massively towards powerlifting, so sometimes his advice is not the best. The phone is clicking, and it's making me freak out, because I hope that it doesn't mean that the entire thing is going to be corrupted. I hope it's not too annoying for you guys as well. Originality 6.5, fitness channel, run of the mill. He doesn't do anything really new, Back in the day, he did because he was one of the first one, a pioneer. But now he sort of stopped, meaning that he sort of makes the same content again and again. I gave him extra points because he started this new series on the History Channel that is actually quite original and great. So he gets cookie points for that. Black Pearl 7, Omar doesn't black pearl people, but because he has only gotten so far on certain aspects, especially aesthetics, and he, of course, has started to believe that this constitutes a certain level of limit, he also puts that into the heads of people, so he gets a 7. It's something you see a ton on this platform. Humor 8. Unlike other people, Omar is naturally funny, meaning that he will crack jokes that you can tell are not scripted and are going to just make you giggle. I took points off because the calves and creatine jokes get tiring, and they also have created parasocial, and that leads to the next criteria, parasocial. Omar gets a 4. Why? Because sometimes I'm thinking to myself, man, are the people in his comment section just having a laugh, or are they just actually impaired mentally? All those jokes about calves and creatine really that funny? I mean, I made a few myself back in the days, but it's been a while. I think it's time to just move on. The reason why they don't move on is because Omar is their big brother and they love their big brother. So they're deeply attached to him, but that is also deeply parasocial. Thankfully, he never actually makes use of it. But that reminds me of something that I heard recently, that if he were ill-intentioned, he would be very dangerous because he has all of the resources to actually scam people on a fucking cosmical level. Empathy 9, big bro vibe. It just feels like you went to the skate park, and you met your bro there and you're just shooting the shit, having a good time, eating hot dogs, doing push-ups and chin-ups. It's great. God complex, and also Omar is like the boy next door, right? He has that vibe of someone you could meet in real life. He's so down to earth that sometimes you forget you're watching a YouTube video, and that's great. It's something that's really hard to achieve. Production quality, and also, sorry, I keep going back to that, but he shares his life tribulations, his mistakes, his injuries, and all of that again creates a very strong relationship. All right. God complex 9. He is down to earth, doesn't give a fuck, he never thought that he was the greatest thing on earth. Will tell you, he will be the first person to tell you that he's not the greatest. All of that is, of course, normal, but on YouTube Fitness it's not, because people get a big head, so very high score. Production quality 6. He never really tried to make anything crazy or special or spectacular out of his channel. There is no fireworks, so he gets just a base grade. Science 6. He, again, dipped his toe into the big pool of science, and I think that the sharks got his ass because, and it's not as bad now, but it used to be a time where he would push a lot of concepts and ideas backed by science that ended up just being bullshit and that got debunked, which is a black mark on his resume. Clickbait 6.5. I would have gotten him a much higher score if you just base it off of his old videos that were just purely informative, but he started to really use clickbait titles because I think that his channel is losing speed because it's an old channel, so he's doing his best to get views, but that impacts his score. Content recycling 1. Omar is really bad with that, meaning that I think he made like 25 videos on the overhead press and they're the same video, At some point you have to move on and find other things to do, which is the reason why he stopped posting for a very long time, is because I think he just ran out of things to say, which is normal for a channel that's been going on for 7 years. Conciseness 7, he's to the point. He's a little bit like AlphaDestiny, where he will ramble sometimes, but it's always entertaining, so I don't really take it against him. Seniority 9, he built something. You can really see that. It's the same with AlphaDestiny, where they started from a point and they made something great out of nothing. It's like you give a toddler clay and sand, and you come back 15 years later and they make fucking Napoli or something, like a great capital of the wood. That's what he accomplished. That's a very high grade. Supplements 7, because he does sell creatine, which is the least damaging of supplements. So it's almost a meme at this point. He also sells shorts, and I'm a little bit tired of the advertisements of the shorts with the fake deep voice. That's a little bit boring, but it's not supplements, it's just something that I wanted to add. And then physique, 7.5, he has a good physique, nothing crazy. I went as far as to say that he was mediocre in the past, and I still stand by that. Just like I am mediocre, our physics are nothing special. Anyone can achieve them. Total grade for Omar Isuf, 143. And the last person I'm going to be grading for today, Ryan Humiston, Programming 3. Ryan knows what programming is, he just doesn't know how to make use of it. It's the equivalent of giving someone a spoon and they start digging the ground with it. That can be something that you can do if you want to, but that's not what a spoon is supposed to be used for. He also does push some very antiquated and just downright damaging ideas and methodologies for programming. He on purpose attacks things like progressive overload that are true and time tested because he tries to reinvent the wheel, so he gets a 3. Experience, 6.5. He's been lifting for a long time, and it's something that you cannot take away from him. So he has a lot of inside knowledge and inside information to share. That being said, he also himself just blatantly ignores a ton of that, where he ignores what got him his physique in the first place, and he gives you the rest. And the problem is that the rest is garbage for the most part. So I had to dock points for that. Integrity 2. You are not really watching Ryan Humiston when you watch this person. You're watching a character. And that's very nice, and it does work well to get clicks and views, but it also means that you can't trust this person because that's an actor, right? They'll say whatever they have to say in the moment to get your money or to get your approval. It also means that if you are going to take advice from that person, you should think about it twice because chances are it's not going to be very good advice. Usefulness 3.5. The reason why is because if you're advanced, his channel is completely worthless. If you are intermediate, it's worthless and might make you regress. And if you're a noob, it's going to work, but anything works with noobs. So he gets the default noob points. Character 6.5. I know that a ton of people hate his guts, but understand that he is popular for a reason. And it's because the bearded badass that is going to say shit and balls and poop and talk to you about cum or whatever the fuck is very appealing for teenagers, and therefore there are people who like that type of character. And I must admit that a part of me also does. I like badasses, I like people who shoot guns. It's just sad that for the most part it's a fabrication. Dogmatism 5. I don't even know if Ryan knows what dogmatism means, so he gets the 5 points of him not really pushing his belief on other people super hard. But since he also never really stands for anything, because he's just super flimsy on most things, and he just pushes whatever is gimmicky and is going to be palatable, he cannot get better than a 5. Originality 7.5. He got very popular because he brought something new on the platform, something that people wanted, right? There was a demand, and he fulfilled the demand, so he got a massive following. That's the name of the game, baby. You cannot hate for that shit. That being said, it's also not something. I just heard a noise that is incredibly concerning because no one should be in my house. I might get murdered at any moment. Alright, well, it will be my last video. I just wished it wasn't one where I review Ryan Humiston of all people. So, originality. The thing too is that it's original because he brought something that was never there, but the something that he brought, he just took directly from TV and big productions, so he cannot get a perfect score. Black Pill 5. The reason why I gave him a 5 is because he's typically the type of person who is going to lead individuals to think they have bad genetics because they're going to follow his advice and see no results because it's bad advice. So inadvertently, he gives people advice that are going to black pill them. Unlike Greg, who does it just outright and therefore got a shitty score. Humor 9. Yes, okay, I hear you, I understand. His jokes are cringy. He talks about, again, shitting in the gutter or whatever the fuck, or running over children. I remember one day. It's a type of humor that people like. Right? I understand why to an extent. It's because it's something that is fun. It's great fun to see someone who's like that. The redneck, the very masculine macho guy that says whatever the fuck he wants and has no filter is appealing and can make for good jokes. So he gets 9. Parasocial 2, it's like Greg, he has an army of fanboys. If this guy pissed in a bottle and then just try to sell it, I think people would buy it. He wouldn't even have to try to pass it down as apple juice. They would just try to buy it. Why? Because strong personalities tend to attract weak personalities that want to be like them but never amount to anything because they just end up being little fanboys and not huggers who copy blindly. I just heard a second door in my house. I will get murdered tonight. Empathy 4. It's tough to connect through the beard, right? You don't really know what you're getting here. Is it a real guy? Is he really like this in real life? Or is it an actor? It's tough to connect, and he himself doesn't connect much because he has this big daddy thing where he's just going to slap his dick on your forehead and tell you that you're a bad little boy. I don't know why I use that metaphor, it's incredibly strange. But his audience loves it. The daddy talk, where you talk down to people and you tell them that they're worth nothing and you just belittle them. For some reason, that type of BDSM relationships is really popular, but it's also really bad because you create stunted individuals. So that is going to be a 2 for parasocial and a 4 for empathy because it's like devilish, cruel empathy in a sense. He connects with people, but he connects with them by just tapping into the weird instincts of people who grew up without a dad, and he gives them a replacement figure. It's really strange. God Complex 2.5. If he started his own religion, I wouldn't be surprised. But again, keep in mind that this very might well be a character. He might be playing a role. But the character he plays is fucking insufferable. You know the movie with Jim Carrey where he becomes God and he behaves like an asshole? Or the Spider-Man movie where he becomes evil? His personality reminds me of that. It's the brash, no filter, no nonsense type that can get like really annoying and also speaks to someone who thinks very highly of themselves. Again, it's not a bad thing. I think very highly of myself, but it gets you a low grade for the God Complex. Production quality 10, it's amazing. It's like you are being taken on the journey of a pro bodybuilder. You get to see like every single individual pearl of sweat running down his perfect chiseled chest and arms. It's just what a great type of content, right? I'm sure that that's the reason why people click on it. Science 3, he doesn't really speak about science. When he speaks about science, it's to just back off his own gimmicky nonsense of like muscle connection, all of that stuff. So he gets a bad grade, and I think that it's just fair. I don't think he gives a fuck about science. He uses science, like the rest of YouTube Fitness, when it actually fits his cause. Clickbait 3, the thumbnails are a fucking nightmare, where there's always his face in like a very close-up shot. It's always like click this and do this and big mistake. Everything to create fear and anxiety in the viewers to force them to click. So that's a bad grade. Content recycling 5.5. He makes the same videos with different titles and thumbnails. I tell you that, where you get the same type of content times and times again, but you sort of forget it because the production value is so high. It's like all of these movies, like there's so many cultural references tonight. What is going on? It's probably because we're talking about things that are not very elevated, so I ditched the philosophy and now I talk about Hollywood. It reminds me of the Fast and Furious movies, which are really the same movie times and times again with like different actors and different types of cars. It's that. His channel is literally the Fast and Furious of YouTube Fitness. Conciseness 10. He will not waste your time. It's to the point. It's super short, but it's to the point because you won't really learn anything. But it's still a 10. Seniority 3. He is a brand new channel. He just exploded in the past 2 years. He cannot get better than a 3. Supplements 4, he does sell supplements, he does recommend certain types of supplements. He does speak out against certain supplements, but it's not really genuine. Again, it's tough to know what is real and not with this guy. And then for physique, I am going to give him a perfect 10 because even though he is enhanced, he has a very nice physique. Ryan Humiston, final grade, 105 points. Now, this is it for today's grading. If you have other channels you would like to see me grade, let me know and I will make a part 2 or maybe a part 3. And if you have your own gradation that you want to implement and put in the comments, feel free to do so. It is your space to express whatever nonsense is in your head. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.